welcome to this week's video, which is all about why you might not be seeing progress, whether that be your training or your body transformation goals. Both apply, but we're mostly going to reflect on the training side of things. So you probably watched a whole bunch of YouTube videos, and maybe you've got some Instagram influencers that you like to follow and you're copying a lot of their routines and you're working really hard and you're really not sure why things aren't changing for you, especially because for them it looks like a lot of things are changing. You know, you see their before and their after and you're wondering what it is that you're doing wrong. And every single female that I come in contact with is doing the same thing wrong, but it's something that is wrong inherently with the industry and the way that it sees and treats women. So it's actually not you, it's a collective problem, and I resolve the same kind of issues with every single female client. So in this video, I'm going to cover the top mistakes that are being made that are easily corrected so that you can start making progress finally in your health and fitness journey. The first one I'm going to highlight is that you are probably doing too many burn exercises and not enough strength exercises. This is my main pet peeve because I see it every time I go to the gym, just girls wasting their time doing things that make their glutes burn or that make their legs burn, trying not to grow their quads at the same time and doing all these really weird things that actually will lead you to nowhere. So I can guarantee you that you will not get strong by just focusing on making a muscle burn. And there is absolutely a massive limit to your long-term potential if that's what you're focusing on. So the way that a girl builds muscle is by challenging the body in a way that it has never been challenged before. And if you do something like, say, 25 glute kickbacks and you do it over and over, and then you do a glute focused back extension and body weight hip thrusts and things like that, or just banded walks back and forth and back and forth, yes, it's going to feel great. And you're probably going to have a glute pump for like 30 minutes after, maybe enough to get an Instagram photo, but it is not going to force your body to put on muscle, not after the first couple of weeks of doing that. When it's new, it's fine. But what is the build potential there? And that's what you've always got to think about. So the reason why weight training is so fantastic for anybody, men and women, is because you can constantly place a load on the body that you didn't place on it the week before. And that causes the body to continually adapt and continually grow and continually change. So if you're focusing on the burn, you're highly limited because it's not going to burn like that when you do something like a deadlift or a lunge or a squat, you know, because the whole body's kind of going to be involved. And what you should really be doing is focusing on building your strength over time. And those burn exercises can be good as an introductory exercise or something to warm yourself up. So I apply them sometimes to help people warm up, to get blood flowing into that area. But from there, they train properly. And this involves things like squatting, deadlifting, lunging, hip hinge movements, hip thrusts, most of the time, and just exercises that they can progressively challenge themselves with over time. So always ask yourself when you're training, if you're trying to actually get results, what functional purpose does this serve? So the body, especially a woman's body, does not have the priority of carrying excess amounts of muscle. The only way you're going to grow excess amounts of muscle is if you set perfect conditions for that. And a body weight burn kickback or band walks backwards and forwards, or a glute burning finisher is not something that the body is going to see as a stressor high enough to actually grow thicker muscle. So don't do burn exercises, just train properly, learn how to lift properly, and focus on your strength and increasing the intensity over time. So my second thing that I see is that there is no plan to progress. So progression requires planning because you need to know where you started and you need to know where you're headed, and you need to be able to track all the little increases and improvements over time. And another mistake is trying to progress too quickly. So progression, or progressive overload is what it's called in the training world, is when you're adding some type of intensity with every single workout. And sometimes people think, oh yeah, cool, I'll just add 5 kilos to my deadlift every time I go to the gym. That's not how it works. Nobody adapts that quickly. So it looks more like resting for a slightly shorter period, doing one extra repetition, a good quality repetition, performing a set with better technique, and maybe adding like 1.25 kilos of weight. So even on a leg press, like if every week you just put on an extra 1.25 kilos, you're going to add heaps of weight over time, and you're going to build muscle without then fueling technique that is so poor that you're going to get no muscle building and probably an injury as well in the long run. And most often, the better you perform the first exercise on your program or the first 2 exercises on your program, the more the rest of them are actually going to suffer. So a well-designed program will have a compound movement at the top, and that might be a squat, a deadlift, a bench, a bent over barbell row, overhead press, a chin-up or something like that. And if you do a chin-up really well, that's going to tax you for the whole rest of the workout. If you think of a back workout, something like chin-ups and then a lat pull down and then a low row, think about it like that. If you do extra reps on your chin-up, that's then going to knock back the next few exercises on the program. So your progression in that session might actually only look like the improvement of 1 exercise, but that is normal. So you've pushed your body out of its comfort zone, and now it's going to grow more muscle. But that is all you actually need to do for progress. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. And you might be starting to see as well that you need to have a structured training program in order to make progress, because if you don't have structure, how are you building from week to week on what you've done? So seek out a really good training program suitable for your training age and your capability and your availability, like the time that you can put into the gym, and just follow it consistently. Anywhere between 8 and 16 weeks is really great for a program. And if you find that you get bored and you actually want to make progress, that is your biggest problem. So focus on your boredom levels. So accept the fact that progress is boring at times. Doing the same thing every time you go to the gym is boring. And mixing up your gym routine every time you go is a privilege afforded to people who have a lot of experience, so they can keep mixing it up. You know, I mix up all my client sessions all the time, but I'm feeling into their body and where it's at, and I know exactly what weight they can do, and I know exactly what's going to happen for them if I switch up the order or throw in new exercises. So there's always a reason for it. But if you do that as an inexperienced, uneducated person, you're not going to make the same good choices. So you might have a workout one week that's fantastic, and the next week it might be subpar because you just don't know what you're doing. So you're better off just getting a workout that is great and just repeating it week after week after week. And as I said earlier in this point, just making really slow progressions every time you go. So it doesn't have to be that complicated. Which brings me to my third point, is that you're probably switching up your program too much. So that links into what I just said, but it does deserve its own point because it's a whole nother thing that people do. They'll do sort of 2 weeks on a program and then they'll say, oh, I'm feeling bored, I want to mix it up. Again, work on the boredom, because I will never mix up somebody's program because it doesn't work. So what I'll provide as a coach is what works. If it worked to do a different routine every day, that is exactly what I would do. But I don't even believe that a 6-week program is long enough to make progress. I really think 12 is ideal. And you don't need to throw in all these crazy new exercises. You can just do the same things over and over again. You know, like a squat will serve you for 20, 30, 40 years. A deadlift will serve you for 20, 40 years. A bent over row, permanent staple in everybody's exercise program. Like, I still do the same exercises that I did when I started. And a lot of them I haven't actually gotten any stronger in, but that is where compound movements come in, because you can focus your strength on all of those exercises. So you should always have staple exercises that you improve over the years, and programs that last between 8 and 16 weeks so that you can really maximize that program. And you should only get a new one when you feel like gotten to a point where progression is actually not happening, and the new program is what's going to bring in that progression for you. Okay, so follow a structured program. The fourth point that I have for you is nutrition related, and it is that you might be eating too many junk foods. Everything in moderation, they say, but I do not agree with this. So in naturopathy, there's this concept that we look into with pretty much every person that we see, and that is how healthy is your constitution. So your constitution is like your gut health, your resilience, your emotional health. It's all of these different factors that come into where your body is at right now. So we didn't all enter this world in the exact same conditions with the exact same DNA and the exact same capability to eat junk food. So yes, a junk food company will tell you to eat in moderation, but that's because they want to sell their food, not because they actually care about your health. And many health conditions are actually caused by the environment to which your body lives, and food is one of the biggest parts of that environment. So things that contribute to what we would call a weaker constitution are things like cesarean birth, not being breastfed, having attachment issues from childhood that are affecting the way you connect with people in your adulthood, any childhood trauma, and the kind of foods you grew up eating. Like, did you grow up on Maggi noodles or did you grow up on meat and veg? Like, these kind of things make a big difference because our body's only got so much capacity to handle stress before it breaks. Okay, so we don't all have the same constitution, and you really do need to identify, am I somebody who can get away with junk food or am I not? If you have a health condition, then you probably don't have the strongest constitution, and it just means that the more whole foods you can eat, the better. Because junk food is a stressor. So always look into how healthy are you emotionally, physically, spiritually, where are you at in your life right now? If you're feeling like abundant with joy and energy, you're feeling amazing, eating in moderation is absolutely perfect for you. Like you could eat a pancake stack for breakfast and a burger for dinner, and you're probably just going to bounce back, and your body's probably going to assimilate those nutrients and provide energy for your training sessions, and you're going to feel amazing. But if you don't have that constitution, the pancakes are going to drain all the energy out of your body. And then if you have the burger as well, it's just going to tip you right over the edge, and you're actually going to be just drowning in a sea of inflammation. And now your body's priority is actually to just reduce the inflammation caused by the food, and your muscle building or fat burning priorities, if that's a goal of yours, is going to be put to the back burner, because your health is more important than building unnecessary muscle tissue or losing fat that it doesn't really care about. So always think what your body's number one priority is. If you have health conditions, that is your body's number one priority. So when you eat better food, you kind of lower that impact on the body, and then you start to make way for more aesthetic changes and things that are not as necessary for your survival. So how you look, your body does not care. It cares how it functions, and that's it. So the healthier your constitution and the healthier you can keep your body, then the better your results are going to be no matter what your goals are. And the fifth thing that I often see which interferes with results is a focus on fat loss. So you're either building or you're trying to lose fat. You can't do much of both. You can under very expert guidance. It is possible. But if you're guiding yourself and you're trying to make your way through this fitness world on your own, then understand that you might not have the skills to pull that off. So if you're wanting to build muscle and you're wanting to make progress in your strength and how you feel in your body in that way, then dieting is not a good idea. And what they do is they're constantly on lower calories, hoping that that's going to help them shed fat, or they're doing something like too much cardio to try and shed fat. So they're doing something that actually depletes the body and stresses it out while they're actually trying to achieve some type of strength goal. And these things are opposing forces. So in order to build strength and make progress in the gym, you need to have enough food coming in, and it needs to be consistent too. So another common pattern with low calorie eaters is that they binge on the weekend. So they might eat 13, 14, 1500 calories a day during the week instead of what is probably a 2200 calorie requirement. And then on the weekend, they might just blow out and eat 3500. That actually does not balance your metabolism out, especially if it's including alcohol, fried foods, sugar, all that kind of thing. That's all detrimental to your metabolism. So you're getting no metabolic benefit, but you're eating heaps of food. So removing the stress of the body of a calorie deficit followed by a binge is going to help you get better results. So if you focus on like every morning having a nourishing breakfast, a nourishing dinner, a nourishing lunch, have snacks if you need to. Some junk food is okay. It's not that you can't have it. It's just that you want to fill your body with all that nourishing stuff so that the junk food really only comes in as a bit of a, icing on the cake, but it's not something that you grab because you forgot to bring something better for yourself. So low calories cause metabolic adaptation. It's a negative adaptation to preserve your life. And when your life is being preserved, putting on muscle is not a female body priority because it is unnecessary for that survival. All it's trying to do is maintain body fat and energy levels so that you can conceive a baby and continue on the flourishment of the species. Okay, so muscle building is not a priority of the female body, and you have to remember that. So you're always trying to create the conditions to do so. So if you're always on lower calories, and this is why you're not making progress, the first thing you need to do is get yourself onto maintenance calories. And a quick estimate of that would be your body weight in pounds times 16. So if you're training, that would be about how much you'd want to eat every day. And then what you do after following maintenance calories for a period of time is then you might look into doing something like a fat loss phase, but you'd only do it once you're actually really starting to make progress and you're actually feeling strong and you're actually feeling like you're seeing changes, like the body's letting go of water, you're sleeping better, your gut's better, your energy's better, your mood's better. You're no longer afraid of food. That's a really big one. Like you've got to really get to that point where you're happy to eat normal food every day and you're not petrified of the impact of that. So removing that whole thing of trying to stick on lower calories and trying to lose fat while trying to make progress, just understand that losing fat is not necessarily the most important part. Is building up your metabolism, building up your strength, getting really confident in your body. Then you might look at losing fat. And then my sixth reason why you might not be seeing results in the gym is that you're forgetting about the extras. And so these don't apply to all of my clients. Some of my clients really just do respond to a calorie controlled diet and weight training routine. Like sometimes they're like that, maybe let's just say 40%. But the rest of them, they also have to lower their stress levels. So they might have to bring in a relaxation technique or a meditation type technique, or they might need to really hone in on their gut health. They might need to bring in more organic foods. They might need to lower their sugar consumption. They might need to eliminate all junk food. They might need to really work on their sleep because all of those things for some people, especially if you have what I was talking about earlier, being an unhealthy constitution, if that's the constitution you're working with, a lot of these things are going to be out of balance, and bringing them into balance is going to help your body do things, superficial things, like building muscle. I won't go into heaps of depth about those because I kind of threw out all my other videos, but just know that for some people, it's not enough to just track your food and lift weights. It is for a period of time, but you do get to a point where you get blocked unless you start taking care of all of those other factors. Number 7 is that maybe you have not perfected your technique. And this is an industry-wide problem. It is not something that is probably your fault. But within the fitness industry, women and men have been treated quite similar, yet women have totally different body structures to men. So I have a video where I kind of go over this. It's about building glute strength. So I will link that on the screen. So if you want to check that out. But for this video, just know that your posture is different to a man. So when you go and perform a movement, no matter what movement that is, you're going to perform it differently. So what we need to do as women is kind of get our bodies strong in a way that a man's body naturally would be. Then we go about doing the exercises, because then all of a sudden we have all the same muscle groups working and we start to perform a little bit more like a man, which is a good thing in a gym sense, because women are not so much, not that we're weaker, it's just that we have weaknesses that need to be addressed. There's nothing wrong with that. So with every single client I have, we address these weaknesses, we get them doing all the complex lifting movements, and they start getting results very quickly. And it doesn't matter how many years they've been training and getting no results for, it works every single time. So you want to perfect your technique, and it is probably not as simple as watching a YouTube tutorial. You probably need some one-on-one help. Find a personal trainer that has, like, I'm going to say 10 years experience, preferably a female, and if they're not covering off these things, they're probably actually not a very good personal trainer for you. So essentially what we're trying to do is redirect the load in the upper body from the traps to the middle back and the abs. And then in the lower body, you're trying to redirect it from the front, like your quads and your hips, into your glutes and hamstrings and your abdominals. And once you've done that, your results are going to start coming a lot faster, and your training is going to feel a lot harder. Like, you're going to finish a session and feel like, oh my God, I really had the best workout. Whereas when you're not training well, you're not using the body to its full capacity. And like I said, this is not a criticism of women. Like, it took me years to work this out for myself because I have a very feminine structure, and I was just training like all my male friends and I was getting nowhere. I started to work all that out, and then I've just applied that exact same principle to every female I've met since then, and it works every time. So perfect your technique, accept the fact that you have some postural issues, probably work on correcting them, and really spend time building the foundations of a healthy physique. And then you're going to start seeing results, and those results are going to stick for a lifetime. And lastly, maybe you're pushing too hard. So training success and progression is actually not about how hard you work. It's not about how many calories you burned in a session. It's not about how high your heart rate got. It's not about how puffed out you are. It's about producing really quality movements and activating the correct muscles and pushing that exercise to its limit. So we use something called RPE, which is a rate of perceived exertion. So when you do a set, number 1 would be like, I can do 10 more reps of that. Number 10 is like, I can't do any more. And I only count that with good form. So we don't want to have form breakdown. So if you've done squats and that was a 10 RPE, that means you could not have done one more good squat. So I always try and get people to do about an RPE of 8 or 9, especially for a compound movement, because broken technique is not the best. And that is how you know how hard you should push. So form should never break down. Your lower back, for example, should never hurt. Everything should feel comfortable, yet challenging. So with my clients, I can get them to do something like a quick warm-up, squats and lunges, and I can have their legs shaking like nobody's business. That is because their whole body is activated in the way that it is designed to. Their posture is sound. Their technique is great. They've hit the exact right amount of reps, the exact right amount of weight for them on a challenging exercise, performed it perfectly, and then now their body's completely buggered and they feel like they hardly did anything. So that's kind of what you want to do. They'll always go, I can't believe doing 3 exercises has killed me more than any other session has. And that's the power of good technique, and it's the power of not pushing too hard. Even for me now, as like a more experienced weight training person, if I have on Monday a really, really, really good leg session and I'm really pleased with myself, sometimes that will ruin all my sessions for the rest of the week. So now that I'm a bit older and probably have a weaker constitution from having a lot of health issues in the last 10 years, I just don't have the capacity to push myself that hard. So I kind of have to do probably a 7 or an 8 RPE in order to have good sessions all week. And that's another thing you want to learn. So if I push too hard, now I suffer for the rest of the week. It's not worth it. And I've had clients before, and this can happen with it, whether you mean to or not, and they've been so sore from their session that they haven't been able to do their next leg session properly. So I'm like, all right, cool, got to rein it in. Like, some people are very hard to read when you meet them. It takes a little while when you have a PT client to work out what their body does when it's fatigued and how they behave, because everyone's a little bit different. Like, some people will freak out when they hit their 5 RPE, and some people will do 10 RPE and it looks like nothing's wrong. That's a good personal trainer will navigate that over time. Okay, so you don't need to have a high, you don't need to be puffing, heart rate doesn't have to be through the roof, you don't have to burn 700 calories for your workout to have been worth it. So building strength, building technique, building confidence in the gym over time, and then your results will start to come. So that's it for this week's video. 8 reasons why you might not be progressing. If you have any questions, comment below. I always answer every single question. So if you have a question about it, I will be there. If you like the video, then subscribe and hit the like button. I believe that helped. And otherwise, I'll see you next week.